It is 3:04, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. I thank you all for coming out this afternoon. Those that kind of had to manage some weather to get here, we certainly appreciate you as well. My name is Tamika Hudson, and I am filling in for the finance chair, Christy Smith, who is enjoying some vacation. I hope it's enjoyment. I'm not sure where she is, but I was privileged and happy, privileged and happy to be here in her place. So we will start with the conflict of interest, and I invite any committee members to state a conflict of interest, if any.
Did you want me to read the statement?
Yes, feel free to. Thank you.
All right. Conflict of interest statement. Opportunity for each member to disclose potential conflicts and their beliefs. They can be unbiased and able to participate, or that they elect to recuse themselves from the matter.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nettles. And then I will read our mission statement, which is to improve the health and wellness of Nashville by providing equitable access to coordinated patient-centered care, supporting tomorrow's caregivers, and translating science into clinical practice. I will now entertain any public comments, if there are any.
There are none.
All right, seeing none, we will move forward to minutes. And I trust that members have had an opportunity to review those minutes in their entirety. Are there any additions, corrections, or amendments that need to be made? Thank you for that motion. I second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, can I have an aye? Aye. Motion passes. All right. Well, let's get into our contracts. We have 5. The first 3 I know are renewals and will be presented by Dr. Mark Brown. So Mark Brown, I invite you to present your contracts.
Good afternoon, board members. My first contract is an InterSource contract. It's a Mid-South satellite contract. It's a contract that we previously had. What we're doing now is enhancing the software portion of that. And the FCC has a chip that goes in that prevents people from pirating the signal. And so what this chip will do is allow us to internet connect our TV so that the patients will be able to have a better picture. And then if they have their own like Netflix account or Apple account or something like that, they'll also be able to log into the TV and use their own Netflix or Apple account. So that's what this software is needed for.
Okay, thank you. And is it correct that this is a zero cost addendum?
No, this is actually an increase in the pricing that we have. We tried to get a 3 or 2 year contract, which raised the cost of that contract up. So the annual cost is $16,000.72 for this contract. Starting, the original contract started date was 10/25. So we're just trying to enhance the software capability of the contract. Currently now what happens is the patient has a fuzzy TV in the room. They can get some channels, but the channels doesn't come in crystal clear.
Okay. So it also looks like on this, the contract start date was October 26th.
Right.
So that's already passed. So will this be, if it's approved today, will this contract be corrected to reflect today's date if it's approved?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Now, part of the contract is some like premier channels, like HBO and Cinemax, but this is not just so that we can get those premier channels.
No, sir. This is for us to be, so what we have now is we have a signal and it has a cable that goes in the back of the TV. And that signal is weak and it doesn't provide the channels or clarity on the TV for the patients. And so when you're in the bed, you're like looking at a fuzzy TV. So it's like you get Channel 4 News or whatever, it's going to be fuzzy, right? So it's not for any premium channels or anything like that. It's just for us to have basic TV. So like at your house, you have internet And like none of my TVs are connected by cable. They're all connected through the internet. So I log into the internet, and that's what this chip will allow us to do, is connect by internet into the TV, like at home where you don't have to plug the cable in the back anymore, and it'll allow you to pick up the channels. But if you happen to have a Netflix account or an Apple account or anything like that, it'll allow you to use the internet to access those apps.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it does look like that we are having some cost savings.
Yes.
From previous years, so that always makes us happy.
Right,
So nice
exactly.
work on that. And then we'll be revisiting this in a year,
Yes,
and it expires in 29, correct?
yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve. A second, any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, my next contract is Health Catalyst. This contract came before the board last month. It was signed by the previous CEO. Our Chrissy Lewis, our compliance officer, did an addendum to that contract because we were informed by council that we didn't want to backdate anything. And so that's why this one is before the board again. It's a tool that we use for tracking cancer related findings. And so it's $77,250, no increase this year, but it does have a 5% escalator in that contract.
So Mark, how does it differ from your next contract that
So,
registers the
right, so
data?
the ESR are actually, and that's why I utilize the word tool, because the Health Catalyst is the tool that actually gathers the data and then input the data. ERS, or registry partners, are our partners that help and us collect the data. They're on our Cancer on Committee team. And what they do is they help us gather the data, make sure that we follow COC standards, and then they report the data for us.
Okay, so one is one that collects and one registers and kind of publishes it.
Right.
Is that a good way? Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I take it this is pretty specific. I mean, you kind of have to use this particular
Yes,
tool?
yes,
Okay.
Dr. Nellis. These are our actual requirements
Okay.
for the program to be COC accredited.
Okay, that was the word that I was listening for,
Yes.
requirement. Okay.
These are for accreditation requirements.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, Mark has one more, I think. Dr. Brown, you're going to do the registry partners? I know we talked about it, but, and I'll go back and I'll start stating which contract that we're actually seeking the
Okay,
motion.
so the registry partners is the team that actually reports the information and the findings that with the Health Catalyst tool. So they're part of our Cancer on Commission committee. They report out each month and during our each quarter during our committee meetings. And they sort of help guide the providers in like what we should be finding or what we should look at each year. Like this year, there was a recommendation to do colon cancer, but they had all the data, and their recommendation was that we look at breast cancer because that's our most prevalent disease finding when it comes to cancer here at Nashville General. And so they help guide us and help recommend us in the path that makes sure that we stay on track with all the standards of COC.
And it looks like the start date for this one too was a March 22nd of this year. Will we be modifying that date for
Yes.
today? Should it be approved today?
Yes.
Similarly, the estimate, like the cost, expired on that date.
Yeah.
Will they still honor it?
Yeah, they're
through
going to still
December?
honor that date.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve. Second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Ayes have it. Motion approved. All right, we will ask Dr. Blackledge to come up at this time, and she's going to present KPMG.
Hello, good afternoon. I'll be presenting some accounting, financial reporting, and operational efficiency improvement advisory work that we do need within our organization. And this is keeping in steps with our commitment a few months ago around economics, accountability, and culture as it relates to our finances. So this work that will occur will help us where we have gaps existing today in our business practices, reduce any potential risk, some of the things that we've spoken about in our past board meetings. We need to get information to departments timely, so this will help us and aid us in our infrastructure to create processes and have the right tools for all those components. So the outcome is to develop a plan with the proper tools implementing these improvements. We looked at we looked at 3 different proposals, one from Alvarez and Marshall, one from FTI Consulting, and then one from KPMG. And then KPMG was the one of the 3 that was selected for us to move forward. I will share a little bit about some of the deliverables. Those deliverables include some of the calculations and supporting schedules for all of our proposed adjustments, accruals, reviewing our year-end financial statements, month-end, year-end close processes, because we go through a number of steps during this period of time where we're closing the prior month. Some of our accounting policies and our standard operating procedures will be brought up to date for utilization and education to occur with our staff. Happy to answer any questions. There are more deliverables that go into cost report preparations and other items such as that. But that's one of the 3 firms. Full disclosure, I've worked with all 3 firms, not worked for the firms, but worked with all 3 firms in the past. But I want to pause there to take in any questions.
Well, I just want to go on record saying that I appreciate the effort in vetting the 3.
Oh, yes.
And so that you will have some comparison.
Yes, absolutely.
And I see that the quote was for, what was it, $910,000?
Yes.
And that's for about 3 months of advisory services, correct?
Right, and so we did not start, in full disclosure, we did not start off with, the quote was higher than that. I think it was 75, if I remember, and I can go look at on a break, 75. And that quote, 75, is per week. So when you multiply that times 12, that was where we started. And so at the end of the day, we were able to negotiate a cap of $67.5 per week times 12. And then there is a $100,000 flat fee. So you have $810,000 that covers the 12 weeks. Then you have a flat fee on top of that of $100,000 to take us to $910.
And was that pretty consistent with the other 2 vendors that submitted proposals? I'm assuming, but I'm assuming, so.
It was, the others, in true transparency, I did not disclose the costs for
Okay.
protecting those
Okay.
other organizations. I'd like to
Understood.
sidebar with you if you
Understood.
have further interest.
Okay. So one more, because while we're talking about money, and then I
Yes.
certainly want to open it up to my colleagues. Do we have funds allocated for this? Where are these funds
Yes,
coming
we
from?
have worked with our Metropolitan finance team and others, and we do have funds set aside or allocated for this purpose.
Perfect, thank you.
And I didn't say it, but one of the things that's important is keeping with our obligations for speed, execution, and action. I mean, there have been a number of items that we've brought forward during our time, so I just want to make sure that this is to get us where we need to be as we prepare to go into the new fiscal year.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that. That was one of my notes, and my understanding is that this is in collaboration with or at the suggestion of Metro Finance Office, correct?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think it's important for us to put that on the record. So I appreciate, again, your willingness and commitment to make a deeper dive and set us straight in the proper direction. So thank you for that.
I have one other question about the start date, end date. I may have just missed, and you have already answered that, but start date is May 1, 2025?
May 1st, so
Yeah, okay. And then August 15th, 25?
May, June, July. So the end of July, maybe,
Okay.
Yeah, so
I just want to make
August
sure
1st
it
through
was,
15th,
I just
somewhere in
missed that
Yeah.
short period of time, the explanation for it.
there are times when we are doing projects of this nature where we may take off a week.
Okay,
And so we build in 2 weeks maybe if we take off.
thank you.
Can we speak a little bit more to the amount? And I'm just reading through the contract. I know there's a fee schedule, and then there are additional expenses as it can relate to like lodging and meals, travel, as well as sales taxes and other fees. Is that 910 inclusive of those amounts, or is that in addition to?
The 910 is inclusive.
Okay.
So when we negotiated the weekly cap, it would include any expenses. And our request was to utilize local staff if that staff profile fits the need for our organization. So, and even looking at our catchment area, so if you look at Nashville, then is it easier for someone to travel from Atlanta? Is it easier for Chattanooga? Because there are offices with KPMG located throughout the U.S.
I love that. Appreciate your thoughtfulness in getting that done.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, one more. As it relates to the deliverables,
Yes.
approaching August, what will that look like as far as an action plan that can be presented here to the board once that information
Well, good
is
question.
gathered?
Great question, because we actually built in that if we so desire to have a representative from KPMG attend the board meeting and give information to you, we built that in twice. So not only will we have weekly meetings in our collaborative effort, meaning board member, Metropolitan Finance here at NGH, but in addition to that weekly or every other week cadence, we've built in 2 times for there to be a member from KPMG to come in and share.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion for approval. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Blackledge.
Thank you.
All right, Gallagher is our next contract, and we will have Ms. Christy Lewis come up and present that.
Good afternoon, thank you. My name is Christy Lewis, Chief Compliance Officer. I'm here to present on the 4 lines of insurance coverage for insurance renewal that's presented by Gallagher. I respectfully request this committee to please approve the following lines of coverage from our incumbent carriers. Directors and officers insurance, what is called management liability here. That is provided by Travelers carriers, cyber insurance that is provided by Ambridge, crime that is provided by Travelers, and excess directors and officers, which is provided by Code Action. You have the, yes, okay, yes. That total amount for that annual premium is $166,196. And so this is provided by, again, Arthur Gallagher, Arthur J. Gallagher is a risk management broker that has had a relationship with Nashville General Hospital for 10 plus years. And I was also instructed that I needed to give the breakdown of the brokerage fees for each of the lines. That is, D&O will receive a commission breakdown of 15%. Crime will receive a commission breakdown of 20%. Cyber will receive a commission breakdown of 10%, and the excess or the umbrella will receive a commission amount of 14%. What I'd like to direct your attention to is the request to increase the cyber insurance from $1 million to $5 million. And because that is very important. In your packet, there should be charts that we have that talks about cyber benchmarking. If you have those on your, it's in page 6 of the packet that I have. But in that, I will start with the, on page 6 of my packet, or might be your packet, where it starts with the Metropolitan Nashville Hospital Authority. Here it shows that the healthcare industry is has the most cyber attacks or cyber incidents of any industry, whether it is finance or industrial or technology, energy. Healthcare is the greatest one that has cyber incidents that have been reported. And it is for that reason that we need to take special care or special attention for that. If we go back to on pages 4 of your cyber benchmarking, it will show on the chart there where the client is. That's where we are, where we have 1 million. It will also show the industry amounts of 8 million, 12 million, 16.3 million, 18.5 million. These are benchmarking or industry standards of healthcare entities that are similar to us, both in size and some greater, but also the smaller ones that are in size. So what we're requesting is that we would approach the 8 million, and so that's why we're asking for the 5 million. I do recognize that there is a difference in the amounts that we have. There is a approximately a little less than 40,000. I'd say it's $39,383. That's a difference in what we're asking for in the proposal for that. And we have spoken with our interim CFO and have brought that to her attention. She said that she will confer with her team and review the budget to determine whether that will be incorporated into the budget. So we are cognizant and aware of that change and what we are requesting. The other thing is that at a 1 million point stage, we do have about 75% coverage for some of the smaller cyber incidents that could occur. However, once we're past that 1 million mark, we're going out of pocket. And so just like any other insurance, you want to make sure that you have the money to be able to pay for your incidents that could and can occur. Frankly, I would much rather pay a little more than $39,000 for a guaranteed coverage than to pay a multiple of that for not having that coverage. And it's for that reason that I would respectfully request consideration of the $5 million coverage as opposed to maintaining the $1 million. It mitigates the risk, and it mitigates that risk, and it would be a savings overall for the hospital to have that. I do realize that the renewal is on 5/1, so the renewal is and it is close to our time. This contracting process that we are implementing now was in midstream of our negotiations with the broker and that. So in the future, we are going to not only have a due diligence to have a review of all of our brokers, we did attempt to mitigate that and ask for an extension of our current contracts. We were not granted that extension. So for that reason, it is here today as very close to time. In the future, it will be negotiated so that there will be plenty of time for the board to consider, and also the ability for this hospital to show its due diligence with its brokers and with providing that we have the best prices available. Now, in the process the brokers conduct their own, what you call a mini RFP, if you will, meaning that the applications that we complete for these lines of coverage, we submit them to the broker. The broker will then shop them to various different carriers, and it is the carriers who will say yay or nay, we are interested, and based on the information that they provide, that they will give us the best prices. So we're saying, have you done your due diligence to get the best prices at this time? Yes, we have. And that is how we are getting the prices that we have. Because there is a leadership transition that we are undergoing right now, it was a high recommendation to stay with our incumbent carriers. So that is why that I'm requesting that we stay with our incumbent carriers and that we consider all of the lines as proposed.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lewis.
The questions are not very clear to me for me to ask. So could you just summarize what you're asking again? Because I heard a couple of things, that because of leadership changing, it's best to kind of stay where we are and, you know, that kind of thing. And then we need more coverage, but then we're going to do our due diligence in terms of shopping things around for later, or, so if you could just sum it up for me. that'd be helpful.
Sure. I am respectfully requesting this committee to approve the following things: to remain with our incumbent carriers on all of our carriers, which is incumbent carriers for travelers, that is for Ambridge, Travelers for Crime, and Travelers for Excess. I'm asking that we stay with all of them. I am asking the committee to please approve the prospective 2025-2026 annual premiums that have been listed to include the $5 million cyber limit option. Okay. Because it has been very close, and we have a new contracting cycle, we want to do a better job in our due diligence for our next year. We did try to mitigate that this year by asking for extensions so that we may fully comply with it. We were not granted that, so our mitigation efforts were not successful. Not because we didn't try, but we were not successful. So as a result, we are going to raise the dates, include the dates when we start our negotiations, so that they will be concluded earlier, so that they will be presented, so that there's more time for consideration, because we appreciate how close this renewal date is.
Thank you. And thank you in general for providing data on comparing other similar size institutions, as well as just kind of what the overall market looks like and risk for healthcare specifically. And so I think the part I struggle with is, which you've acknowledged, is the short turnaround time. I think that in tandem with it not being allocated in the budget. And so it is a smaller, the difference, the increase, the 115,000 versus 166,000. I do recognize that in the grand scheme of things, if we were to experience some type of cyber attack and other things that this insurance umbrella will cover, would probably be a lot more than that. So I don't want to minimize that, but it is still difficult to sit in the seat and recognize that someone said, hey, I don't know if there is a budget for it. I'll see. And we have to make a decision relatively quickly for a May 1st start date, because our insurance it'll be lapsed. So that's kind of the rough seat that I sit in, and certainly I almost feel like it's worth bringing it to the full board for our colleagues to kind of weigh in as well. So yes, please.
Thank you also, but I would like to share that it is common for us to make adjustments as we are made aware of information. So had this been information that we had in February, we would have strongly considered it and found a place for the $40,000. Right now, I can tell you there are a couple of things that are top of mind. One is that we have made some adjustments to some telecommunication pieces to phones and what we would call hotspots. And so understanding that we've made that adjustment right now, that savings is probably $25,000 annually. And we anticipate that there is more. Okay. So we do believe at this present juncture that we do have the funding for the difference. So I will share that, and I have emails if you need that documentation to support.
Well, that's helpful for me, because when she initially said that okay, it's not in the budget, that's kind of what was next. Like, but hey, maybe we can make some alterations. Hey, we have the new.
It's not in the budget, but we strongly feel like we can come up with. We have the $40,000 if we have to make some adjustments. And making an adjustment is not uncommon.
Yeah.
For us, we probably have not did a good job of vocalizing when we were making adjustments throughout the year. But it is common in our business to make an adjustment based on the need of an organization. Yeah.
I appreciate that additional information.
It's also, because of we wanted to have an additional due diligence for our next year. Our goal is to have a savings. Like even when we were looking at our umbrella, we're bringing today a $1,900 savings from the umbrella part of it that's being presented today. And so the goal is to reduce those things over the years by at least 5%. So that will give us that in our new request for proposals when we have for reviewing our brokers and for reviewing all of our lines of coverage. So we are very cognizant and aware. I am brought into this also midstream as well. But those are changes that are recommendations that I would have to have a more successful renewal cycle.
And I think, no, you're not gonna make, okay. Okay. I was gonna invite you to contribute to the discussion, and it looks like you were itching to say something.
I'm Melanie Thomas, the CIO. I just wanted to remind everybody that we did have an incident about 3 years ago. And with the level of coverage that we had, we did not bring to the table many of our costs. So we did have to internally eat some of the costs that it took us to mitigate the event that we had. So this is an investment that is well worth it. I think we'll see that value. And we get pinged all the time. And some of the tools that we have in place are constantly catching it. So healthcare is a big target because of the kind of information that we have. So we have social security numbers, we have mother's maiden name, and all of the things that people need to get further financial data from other people. So it is very targeted industry. So it is definitely worth our investment for sure.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Well, and I totally agree and support, and you've just instituted, a new medical record system. I mean, everything is being upgraded. When you upgrade, that means more money, more money, more money. And I think you hit right where I was trying to go to. Do we have the money to do this? Because this is very serious. It's very important that we do this. But if there is a way to kind of find other sources and means or whatever, I mean, this is very imperative. So I'm not supportive. It's just that it does concern me that we need to find the funds somewhere. And I don't know how that works.
Yes, thank you. Well, that certainly helped my comfort level. Just there is a vulnerability. I feel like we have a very high vulnerability because of the coverage status that we are at now, and I don't want to remain vulnerable. And then that there has been some level of due diligence in investigating where the funds can come, where something can go away. And then also optimistic in working with the financial advisors that will certainly, I'm sure, have some suggestions about moving forward. Just as we think about next year, I know Ms. Lewis mentioned that there are some things that we'll be thinking about a little bit more proactively and having more time to do that. Just so that I'm clear, there were some binding contingencies as a part of this, things like the number of employees terminated within the last year, and looking at which one of those were officers or directors, as well as the search for a new CEO, as well as the number of officers fired in the last 24 months. So if I'm reading this correctly, was our quote based on those factors?
Yes, I answered all of those questions. We answered all of those questions. I worked with various departments to get those responses. When we had the first proposal, we said, we need this. They said, we need this additional information. I said, no problem, I'll get it.
Okay.
We have that information. It was submitted to them. And that's also where we received the $1,900 savings on the umbrella, on the umbrella, because we were able to answer those very quickly.
Awesome.
So the contingencies have been completed except for one. We do not allow, our interim CEO is not going to sign anything without board approval. We follow the rules.
No, I meant were these factors more than contingencies, more factors in coming up with a quote. So say, for example, if we had very few terminations within the last 12 months, would we have received a better rate? I was asking things like that as we think about moving forward.
Yes, we did receive a better rate on an umbrella because of those factors that they were lower numbers. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Any further discussion? No, seeing none, I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second, discussion. Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Madam Chair, just a comment on contracts in general.
Yes.
That the contract summary information sheet has been really helpful to me.
Yes.
In reviewing these. One thing that I would ask on the signature part there, I guess there's a list of people, so some of them you know who they are. ELT members, could be anybody, that the signatures either be legible or that the person's name be printed there so we know that who's signing both these proposal sheets as well as the contracts themselves. Thank you.
Dr. Hudson, I'm sorry.
Yes.
On the last motion, is that on the 115,000 or the 160,000? Which one
The
did you approve?
166,000, the
$166,000.
$5 million. Is that what was that your motion?
Yes, that was, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
I
that's
just
what I
wanted
was
to clarify.
seconding.
Thank you.
Thank you for making that clear for the record. All right, and so we will continue with the agenda, which calls for financial statements from Dr. Blackledge. We will welcome her this time.
Thank you so much. I do want to just start off by saying when we finished our March financials, and Keith will go over those shortly, I do want to point out two categories, or I want to point out three items. One is we've been talking about cost reduction strategies, and we put some items into play and made some changes probably about 45 days ago. We did see some of those benefits, early indicators, which are good to me in March. So I wanted to share that. That's contract labor. As Keith walks through, you'll hear that through contract labor, contract services, and then overall, not necessarily a good statistic because we still have a negative operating margin. But of the 9 months, we're in March now, so 9 of the 12 months that we will have this fiscal year, this was the second best month, and still a negative operating margin. Not pointing that part out, but just sharing that all indicators are that we're moving in the right direction. The question now is, can we do it with any type of speed, acceleration, or those factors? So I'll turn it over to Keith, but I just wanted to point those three items out as we have began to talk about cost reduction strategies and what does that look like in terms of outcomes. Thank you.
I think she stole everything I was going to do. All right, I'll start with the statistics. I start out with the patient volumes. Okay, so the inpatient admits decreased from 296 in February to 232 in March. We were above budget of our admits of 220. So our inpatient admissions decreased from 10.6 per day to 7 per day. Now, one thing you got to remember about these two comparisons of the months is you got 28 days in February and 31 in March. So that makes a little bit of difference in revenue because you have more revenue in March than you would in February. So the inpatient average length of stay was 4 versus a budget of 3.9. Our case mix index for this month went from 1.16 to 1.28 from the previous month. ER volumes were 2,252, which was an increase compared to the previous month of 2,103. We are a little bit below a budget of 2,335. Our surgeries for the month were 27, which was a comparison of budget of 27, so we're right on budget. But we had a decrease from the previous month of 43. Our outpatient surgery cases increased from 93 last month to 100 this month, which were 14.3% above budget of 87 outpatient cases. Now stop me if you have any questions. Our cath lab volume, of course, we don't have a physician, so there was non-existent, but we do have interventional radiology volume drop. Now, this is a new statistic compared to what we've been reporting. So it went from 31 the previous month to 28. Deliveries dropped by 20%, went from 40 to 32 from the prior month. We were 1 delivery above budget. Our clinic volume was 4,645, which was an increase compared to the previous month of 4,325. Year to date, we're 26% above budget. So we're 39,971 year to date versus 31,713 compared to the previous month. So let's go on to our income statement. So we had total revenues of $22.5 million, which were 20.2% below budget. So we're $5.7 million below budget. Our inpatient revenue year-to-date is 5.6% or 3.9% below budget. And both inpatient and outpatient variances have a lot to do with cath lab and interventional radiology being so low. So outpatient revenues year-to-date is 13.4% or $24.4 million below budget. But our net patient revenue of $4.45 million was only $924,000 below budget. So we had lower budget bad debts and contractuals. Staying around 19.8% above the budget of 19.1. So let's go down to staffing and expenses. Salary expenses of $5.56 million were $473,000 above the budget of 5.1. The FTEs for the clinics increased from 136,000 from 133 the prior month. The contract labor of 269 decreased by 1.5 million from the prior month, which has got to do with the savings and other reversal of accruals that we never got the invoice, so we over accrued just slightly. So, pharmacy supply cost increased from $477,000 from the previous month to $916 for the current month, and that is like riding a roller coaster, so it goes up and down based on the purchases and the volume of patients from month to month. Supply expenses overall decreased from $956 to $938, so they stay pretty comparable. Of course, contract services, physician services, and repair and maintenance have decreased like Dr. Blackledge was referring to. So, any questions so far?
And on physician services, year to date, we're over quite a bit. What accounts for that?
That has got to do with the emergency room physician services and the pathology contract.
So we raised the emergency contract during this fiscal year, I believe. Is that correct? We gave them a raise. And the pathology contract is new this year.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
We had expenses of $12.2 million, so we were 4.9% favorable to the budget. So we were below budget and expenses for the month. We had a net loss of $1.4 million compared to a net loss of $19.8 for the year. Let's go to a chart that I put together. Y'all saw this last month, and this kind of brings it more to light. You can tell for the month that the blue part on the right is the outer edge is actual. If you got your binoculars on, you can see that, and in the center is the budget. So the budget in the middle, the reason it's so low is because of the difference in the decreases in other expenses made the actual salaries a bigger percentage of the total cost. Any questions?
I actually have a quick question from the previous page and just looking at the actual year-to-date variance. I know last month, I think we were to submit like capital funds requests at the end of March. Does anyone know if that was submitted to kind of make up for that deficit is what I think the goal was?
Capital request was submitted prior month, so I can't remember the exact date, but we submitted all of our capital. We've not received of course, it's going through the process, the budgeting process.
Okay, thank you. That was just, I had a note that someone said that it would be submitted later in March, and so I just wanted to.
Yeah, that means that.
March was submitted.
Yeah, so it would have been after our meeting, that's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Okay. So let's go to the balance sheet. There's no real big changes between this month and last month. Most of the changes will be apparent on the cash flow statement, which we'll talk about next, unless anybody wants to talk more about balance sheet. Because the cash flow is really where the money is. Okay? So the cash flow report at the top, you can tell from operations that we had minus cash flow from operations, but overall from the sources and uses of cash, we had increase in cash of $3.4 million, which netted against the operations and gave us a positive cash flow of the month of $2.2 million. So the biggest changes in this cash flow is the deferred subsidy income, which is money that we get our subsidy from the city, and also from the Metro contributed capital at the top was $1.1 million. And the remainder in the middle pretty much nets out to no change. Any questions about that?
I have a question about capital allocation. And I was provided a list over the years, and for fiscal 2024, we got $9 million, which was a lot more than usual. But there wasn't anything listed for fiscal 25. Have we not received an allocation, or is that just?
To my knowledge, we didn't ask for our allocation for 25.
Well, we're asking for an allocation for 26, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
So,
Some
okay.
reason we didn't ask for in 25. I don't have a clue why, but that's my understanding.
We may need to confirm.
But I
wanna
will
make sure we
confirm.
It may be
that.
that
Yeah,
the list
we
I
need to
got was
confirm that.
was incorrect.
There's two different kinds of capital. There's a 4% capital.
Right.
And we did get that money.
Okay.
We did get funds from there. And I'll have to verify that the other one, but I'm almost positive.
I think Dr. Brown has something to contribute to the discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that Mr. Nelmore did request the capital for 25. We never submitted a request for 4% maybe, but we did submit a capital request, and it was in the range of either $9 to $12 million of what the capital that we submitted that year.
So does that mean 2 years in a row we've gotten
Yes, sir.
$9 million? Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
the list I got just was
'Cause,
not up to date. Okay,
I
thank you.
don't,
Yeah, we had 2 years ago, we had $17 million in capital that we had on our list for Metro. So Mr. Delmore each year submitted around $7 to $10 million for capital requests that we had put together.
Right, yeah.
So-
I think the group would be interested next month in seeing the history of capital allocations and perhaps for the last couple of years, how we have spent those.
Dr. Martin, I'm
allocations.
happy to take that away. As,
Great.
assignment to make sure we cover that. and
Okay.
one thing on this report, it shows we only got $3.8 million in capital allocation from Metro this year. Yes, sir. That includes the 4%.
We need to just clarify for you. All right.
Okay. So for the month and year to date, we've got $5.6 million in the bank as of the end of the month of March. Any questions or?
I have a quick question. I know last month this was more of like informational versus seeking approval. Are we still in the informational stage? Okay, thank you. Are there any further discussion, financial statements? All right, seeing none, we will move to the revenue cycle. All very quickly.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon again. I will quickly run through the revenue cycle slides. So for the month of March, as an organization, we collected $4.9 million. And if you guys can see, January and February was well reduced given that we went live with Cerner. And I will say I'm really excited for the organization to be on Cerner and the work that I watched occur during these periods of time, January, February, and again in March. Initially in all the conversations with Cerner, we were advised that it would be a 6-month rebound type period with cash. So I'm again delighted for the organization to say thanks to the people that were pushing and pulling and falling out and getting back together and making up to produce the cash income that we need to support the organization. And so where we are with this month of April is we are today sitting here today with just the hospital side only, not the clinics, about $4 million with 4 days remaining in the month. So I do believe that we're out of that period and we hit the floor in February from post-go live activities. May has 5 weeks, so excited about moving into May because that gives us an additional week to collect dollars. You can go to the next slide unless there's a question. As it relates to the unbilled activity, meaning accounts that have not been sent to the insurance provider for a reason, whether we were waiting on codes, we're waiting on other various items, authorizations, things of that nature. We're at 1.75 days is where they ended for March. The team has probably about 20 people on the email string that goes out every day communicating where we are as it relates to various accounts. It's a great tool that provides the insight and the transparency needs that goes from one day to the next day. So it connects the team all the way throughout the entire month. Therefore, they can produce the outcomes that we see in front of us. And it's really what I call roles and goals. If everybody that's a part of a process understand the goal and what their role is, then it makes the execution and achieving the goal much better and easier, brings clarity, and then they're able to get things done. I'll talk a little bit about denials management, which does not look as good. So for the denials management piece, I'll talk a little bit about what happened between February and March. And we've got some of the people in the room that do this work. So there is a company, one of our insurance providers, known as Ambetter. We call them Centene from a reporting standpoint. We have a safety net status, which is our status, which is we negotiate rates and things with insurance companies. That's one of our indicators that we're a safety net hospital. For some reason, with one of our insurance providers, this Centene Ambetter, our safety net status was removed from our profile. So that has created some denials for us in an interim period of time between February and March. You can see that went up by about $400,000. And there was literally more in that category. So we've got an updated letter. I believe we've received that letter. And Mark, I'm looking at you now. I don't know if we had the letter. Okay. So I believe that we received that letter. Mark is confirming that. And all of the claims will be reprocessed. So I want to make sure I share why we see that uptick. And I see Melissa and Faith there too, but why we see that uptick as it relates to those claims between February and March. That's the acknowledgement of the safety net, and that's literally the reason we see that increase. And what this does is delay receiving the payment. It doesn't mean that we will not receive the payment. It creates the delay. In other words, administrative rules that insurance companies put in place to create hiccups and all those things for us as an organization. So I think that's, and thank you. Take questions if you have questions for Keith or myself.
Any questions or discussion? Well, yes, I was very excited when I saw the positive trends in the unbilled gross accounts and the cash collected to net revenue.
Right.
And I don't think it's missed. I think we should acknowledge, I know you've worked really hard of developing systems and things like that. And I just don't think it's a fluke. I love to see these trends, and I think it's a dedication and a testimony to your efforts, and as well as being able to identify the source of the denial. So a delay, not a full denial.
A delay, not, and I have to, I don't. It's something to say, push and pull, but those are literally real activities that must occur within an organization to get things done. It creates discomfort sometimes, but it's so important and it has to occur timely. Yeah.
I appreciate that. We get this snapshot, but again, recognizing that you guys are in this all day, every day, and creating these action plans, and just to see your efforts manifest, I hope that you're as excited as
I
I
am.
personally am about that. So good job to you and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
To share Dr. Martin's sentiments about this form. It really does help us review, and it helps with the approval process as well, to have all that information readily available in an organized and straightforward manner. So thank you all for that.
Just like to add too that how quickly you have been moving with the transition of a new medical system. That is something that is not taken lightly.
Well, thank you.
All right, any further discussion from the committee? All right, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. A second. All right.
Thank you.